And the idea that sacrifice is the basis of the community, that's just obvious. Like the fact that you're married. So what's the sacrificial gesture there? Well, all other women.
What if one of the most famous stories in human history wasn't what we've been told? Joe Rogan, known for tackling the big, uncomfortable questions, recently made waves with his thoughts on Jesus Christ's death. According to Rogan, there's much more to the crucifixion narrative than the traditional version we've all come to know. Was Jesus' death a political move, a misunderstood event, or something even more mysterious? For over 2,000 years, the story of Jesus' crucifixion has been the cornerstone of Christian faith, a tale of sacrifice, redemption, and hope. But as Rogan and his guests delve into alternative perspectives, they uncover fascinating inconsistencies and explore theories that challenge everything we think we know. Could history and theology have been shaped by agendas, misinterpretations, or lost truths? In this video, we'll walk you through the traditional biblical account, explore Joe Rogan's controversial take, and dive deep into historical, scientific, and spiritual interpretations that offer a fresh lens on this ancient story. What really happened during those final hours, and why does this discussion matter so much even today? Stick with us as we unravel the shocking layers of this timeless mystery. You won't want to miss a single detail as we uncover how one of history's greatest stories might not be what it seems. A shocking claim. Joe Rogan, the polarizing host of The Joe Rogan Experience, has never shied away from controversial topics. But when he touched on the story of Jesus Christ's death, his claim sparked a debate unlike any other. Questioning the widely accepted biblical narrative, Rogan suggested that the crucifixion might not have happened the way we've been told, or perhaps not at all. The question remains: could one of history's most foundational events be based on misinterpretation or even fabrication? This isn't just a discussion about theology. It's about the intersection of history, belief, and human culture. The story of Jesus' death and resurrection has influenced countless lives, inspired civilizations, and shaped societal norms. To challenge it means to revisit centuries of faith, art, and tradition through a new lens. In this video, we'll explore Rogan's claims, unravel the historical and theological implications, and dive into alternative perspectives that may forever change the way you think about Jesus' story. Whether you're a believer, skeptic, or simply curious, this journey promises to illuminate how fact and faith often blur in the retelling of history. The traditional narrative of Jesus' death. At the heart of Christianity lies the story of Jesus Christ's death and resurrection. According to the Bible, Jesus was betrayed by Judas Iscariot, arrested by Roman soldiers, and brought before Pontius Pilate, who sentenced him to death by crucifixion. The Gospels describe his final hours, including his suffering on the cross, his burial in a tomb, and his miraculous resurrection 3 days later. This narrative is more than a historical account. It's a cornerstone of Christian theology. Jesus' death is seen as the ultimate sacrifice, offered to atone for humanity's sins and open the path to eternal life. Without this act of selflessness, the foundation of salvation within Christian belief would collapse. Yet, the story has also been scrutinized for its inconsistencies. The Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, offer differing details about the events leading up to and following Jesus' death. These discrepancies have led some scholars to question whether the story is rooted more in theological necessity than in historical accuracy. The pop culture intersection. Why Joe Rogan is interested. Joe Rogan's interest in the crucifixion narrative stems from his broader fascination with challenging established beliefs. As a host with a platform reaching millions, Rogan often invites guests to discuss topics that disrupt conventional wisdom, from ancient history to scientific paradigms. Religion, with its deep roots in human culture and its far-reaching influence, is a frequent subject of his curiosity. Rogan's podcast has featured a wide range of guests, historians, theologians, and even skeptics who bring unique perspectives to discussions about faith and history. His platform offers a rare space where controversial ideas can be explored without immediate dismissal, encouraging listeners to engage with unfamiliar or uncomfortable viewpoints. What makes Rogan's approach so engaging is his ability to connect ancient debates to modern questions. By asking what really happened during Jesus' final hours, Rogan doesn't just challenge religious institutions. He invites his audience to think critically about the stories that shape our collective consciousness. Revisiting historical accounts. The story of Jesus' death is far from monolithic. Historical records reveal a wide range of interpretations, reflecting the complex socio-political context of the time. While the Bible offers the most widely known account, other sources, including Roman writings and early Christian texts, provide alternative perspectives. Some historians argue that Jesus' crucifixion was less about religion and more about politics. As a preacher who attracted large crowds and challenged the authority of religious leaders, Jesus posed a threat to both the Jewish hierarchy and Roman governance. His execution may have been a calculated move by Pontius Pilate to prevent unrest, rather than an act of divine prophecy. Additionally, early Christian communities often presented differing views of Jesus' death. Some saw it as a necessary sacrifice, while others emphasized his teachings over his martyrdom. These variations suggest that the story of Jesus' death evolved over time, shaped by cultural, political, and theological influences. The role of religious institutions in shaping the narrative. Religious institutions have played a critical role in solidifying the story of Jesus' crucifixion and resurrection. In the centuries following his death, church leaders worked to establish a unified narrative, ensuring consistency in Christian teachings. This process culminated in events like the Council of Nicaea in 325 CE, where foundational doctrines were formalized. The emphasis on Jesus' sacrifice as the centerpiece of salvation served both spiritual and institutional purposes. By framing Jesus as a divine figure who died for humanity's sins, the Church reinforced its moral authority and attracted followers seeking redemption. This narrative also helped distinguish Christianity from other belief systems, strengthening its identity and appeal. However, the codification of Jesus' story also meant suppressing alternative interpretations. Gospels that offered different accounts or downplayed the crucifixion were excluded from the biblical canon. This deliberate shaping of the narrative raises questions about the balance between divine truth and human influence in the creation of religious doctrine. Alternative theories about Jesus' death. Alternative theories about Jesus' death challenge the traditional narrative in profound ways. One of the most debated ideas is the survival theory, which suggests that Jesus may not have died on the cross. Some scholars argue that he was taken down before succumbing to his injuries, possibly revived by his followers. This theory, while controversial, is supported by historical accounts of crucifixion victims who survived the ordeal. Another perspective views Jesus' death as a symbolic event rather than a literal one. In this interpretation, the crucifixion represents the ultimate act of selflessness and the triumph of spiritual values over worldly concerns. This view aligns with mystical traditions that emphasize Jesus' teachings over his physical suffering. These theories don't just challenge theological doctrines, they invite us to reconsider the purpose and meaning of Jesus' story. Whether seen as a historical event or a spiritual allegory, his death continues to inspire debates about faith, redemption, and human nature. Joe Rogan's perspective. Key points from his discussion. Joe Rogan's discussions about Jesus' death often focus on the inconsistencies and unanswered questions surrounding the narrative. He has highlighted how the Gospels, written decades after Jesus' death, offer differing accounts of key events. Rogan's skepticism extends to the role of religious institutions in preserving and promoting these stories, questioning whether their motives were purely spiritual or also political. Guests on Rogan's podcast, including historians and biblical scholars, have brought fascinating insights to the table. Some argue that the crucifixion story reflects theological agendas rather than historical realities, while others explore alternative interpretations rooted in cultural and historical contexts. Rogan himself often plays the role of the curious skeptic, pushing his guests to delve deeper into their claims. The response from Rogan's audience has been equally thought-provoking. While some viewers praise his willingness to tackle such a sacred topic, others criticize him for questioning deeply held beliefs. Regardless of where one stands, Rogan's discussions have opened the door to a broader dialogue about the nature of truth and the stories we choose to believe. The Gnostic Gospel Angle. The Gnostic Gospels, a collection of ancient texts discovered in the mid-20th century, offer a radically different perspective on Jesus' life and death. These writings, which include the Gospel of Thomas and the Gospel of Judas, focus more on spiritual enlightenment and inner truth than on the physical crucifixion and resurrection. For the Gnostics, Jesus' death was not a central event. Instead, they emphasized his role as a teacher, guiding humanity toward self-awareness and divine wisdom. In texts like the Gospel of Judas, Jesus is portrayed as orchestrating his own betrayal to fulfill a deeper spiritual purpose, challenging the traditional narrative of martyrdom and redemption. The Gnostic perspective forces us to reconsider the meaning of Jesus' story. Was his crucifixion a literal event, or was it symbolic of the struggles we all face in transcending the material world? By shifting the focus from his death to his teachings, the Gnostic Gospels invite us to explore new dimensions of faith and understanding. The political and social context of Jesus' time. Understanding the socio-political landscape of first-century Judea is essential to unpacking the story of Jesus' death. At the time, the region was under Roman occupation, and tensions between Jewish authorities and the empire were high. Jesus' teachings, which challenged both religious orthodoxy and social hierarchies, placed him at the center of this volatile environment. Roman officials, including Pontius Pilate, viewed Jesus as a potential threat to stability, his growing following and radical. Messages, such as overturning the money changers' tables in the temple, alarmed both Jewish leaders and Roman authorities. His trial and crucifixion were likely motivated as much by political expediency as by theological disputes. This context paints Jesus not only as a spiritual figure but also as a revolutionary whose death was as much about politics as faith. Re-examining his story through this lens challenges us to see him as a complex figure navigating a dangerous and divided world. Scientific and medical perspectives. From a physiological perspective, crucifixion is one of the most brutal forms of execution ever devised. Modern medical analyses of historical crucifixions shed light on what Jesus might have endured. Victims typically died from a combination of blood loss, dehydration, and asphyxiation, as their bodies struggled to maintain airflow while suspended. Some researchers have questioned whether Jesus could have survived the ordeal. They point to inconsistencies in the timeline, such as his death occurring more quickly than usual for crucifixion victims. This has fueled theories that he was removed from the cross before succumbing to his injuries. Scientific investigations into the Shroud of Turin, believed by some to be Jesus' burial cloth, have also sparked debate. While some see it as evidence of the resurrection, others argue it's a medieval forgery. These perspectives add another layer of complexity to the enduring mystery of Jesus' death. Hidden agendas. What's at stake in rewriting the story? Challenging the traditional narrative of Jesus' death isn't just a theological exercise. It has profound implications for Christianity as a whole. The crucifixion and resurrection are the foundation of Christian faith. To question these events is to challenge the very essence of the religion. Religious institutions have historically resisted alternative interpretations, fearing they could undermine their authority. The centrality of Jesus' sacrifice gives the Church its moral and spiritual foundation. Rewriting this story could destabilize centuries of doctrine, rituals, and practices. Figures like Pope Francis and others on platforms like Joe Rogan's podcast have dared to engage with these debates, showing that even within faith communities, there's room for questioning and reinterpretation. But the stakes remain high, as any shift in the narrative could ripple through millions of lives and reshape religious identity. Spiritual interpretations of Jesus' death. For many, Jesus' death transcends the physical act of crucifixion. It symbolizes themes of sacrifice, love, and forgiveness, offering a blueprint for how humanity can find redemption and hope in the face of suffering. This spiritual perspective focuses less on the historical details and more on the broader message of Jesus' life. Modern spiritual movements often reinterpret Jesus' story, emphasizing its universal lessons rather than its theological specifics. His teachings about compassion, humility, and selflessness resonate across cultures and belief systems, making him a figure of inspiration even for those outside the Christian tradition. By shifting the focus from literal events to symbolic meaning, this perspective invites us to explore how Jesus' story can guide us in our own lives. Whether or not the crucifixion happened as described, its message endures as a call to embrace love, forgiveness, and unity. Public reaction to Joe Rogan's claims. Joe Rogan's discussions about Jesus' death have sparked a wide range of reactions from his audience and beyond. Believers often view his questions as provocative or even offensive, accusing him of undermining deeply held faith traditions. Skeptics, on the other hand, appreciate his willingness to challenge sacred narratives and explore alternative viewpoints. Religious leaders and scholars have also weighed in. Some see Rogan's platform as an opportunity to engage with a broader audience, using his questions as a springboard for deeper theological conversations. Others criticize his approach, arguing that it lacks the nuance and respect necessary for such a profound topic. Regardless of where one stands, the debate highlights the enduring power of Jesus' story. Whether inspiring devotion or sparking controversy, it continues to captivate and challenge us, proving that its relevance remains as strong as ever. Implications of rethinking Jesus' death. If we were to rethink the narrative of Jesus' death, the implications would be far-reaching. Theological doctrines would face scrutiny, potentially leading to shifts in how Christian rituals like communion and Easter are understood and practiced. On a cultural level, reinterpreting Jesus' story could inspire new ways of thinking about faith, redemption, and the human experience. It might encourage believers to focus more on Jesus' teachings and less on the specifics of his death, fostering a more inclusive and universal approach to spirituality. However, such a shift could also create divisions within faith communities, as traditionalists and progressives clash over how to reconcile history with belief. The challenge lies in finding a balance between honoring the past and embracing new perspectives that enrich our understanding of Jesus' legacy. What does it all mean? At its core, the story of Jesus' death is about much more than historical facts or theological debates. It's a reflection of humanity's search for meaning, redemption, and hope. Whether viewed through the lens of faith, history, or symbolism, it continues to resonate because it speaks to universal truths about love, sacrifice, and forgiveness. Joe Rogan's questions may unsettle some, but they also remind us of the importance of questioning and seeking deeper understanding. By examining the traditional narrative alongside alternative interpretations, we gain a richer appreciation for the complexity of Jesus' story and its impact on the world. In the end, what does Jesus' story, traditional or reimagined, teach us about humanity? Perhaps it's that our greatest strength lies in our ability to find light in the darkest of moments and to create meaning even in the face of mystery. As we continue to explore these questions, we honor the timeless legacy of a figure who changed history forever. We've taken you on a journey through history, theology, and even Joe Rogan's unique perspective on one of humanity's most enduring narratives. From the traditional story of Jesus' crucifixion to the Gnostic Gospels, survival theories, and the socio-political forces at play, we've explored the many layers of this fascinating topic. So, what do you think? Is the story of Jesus' death a historical fact, a spiritual metaphor, or a mix of both? Joe Rogan's questions push us to think deeper about the stories we accept and why they matter. Whether you're a believer, a skeptic, or somewhere in between, conversations like these remind us of the power of questioning and curiosity. If you found this discussion intriguing, hit that like button and share your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe for more thought-provoking content that dives into history, mystery, and everything in between. Thank you for watching, and until next time, keep asking the big questions and exploring the truths that shape our world. See you in the next video.